The bad boys of rock and roll, and no, I'm not talking about Guns N' Roses, the Sex Pistols, or even Iggy Pop. I'm talking about the true originals. Now, two of their members have died. Two other members quit. One of them has got serious health issues, but you wouldn't know that from the way he struts. And the other member, well, he looks like the Walking Dead. But they ain't letting none of that stop them. There ain't no moss gathering here. They just keep rolling on. The Rolling Stones, let's drop the needle. They have released 30 studio albums, 33 live albums, and 29 compilation albums. And to this day, they still have a friendly feud with the Beatles. Yes, this episode we're going to discuss the Rolling Stones, and I have a feeling this is going to be a fairly controversial episode because I am going to pick and rank my top 10 Rolling Stones studio albums. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to leave some out that you really like. And if that's the case, leave me a comment. I'd love to hear what your top 10 are. Anyway, let's all take a deep breath and start me up. Oh, sorry, I couldn't help it. Now remember, I'm only going to look at their studio albums. So for number 10, I'll pick Steel Wheels. It was released in 1989, and it's kind of their comeback album. After years of fighting between Jagger and Richards, them splintering off and each doing solo projects with varying degrees of success, they got back together for this album, and it contains their last US Top 40 hit, Mixed Emotions, which is kind of about their relationship. Other great songs are Rockin' a Hard Place and Slipping Away. Notably, it's the last full album that Bill Wyman, the bassist, their original bassist, will appear on. Steel Wheels is a very good album. Welcome back, boys. At number 9, I'm going to pick A Bigger Bang. Now, this was their first album in 8 years after the Bridges to Babylon album. And besides being right on point with the title of this album, boy, the Stones decide to really rock. The album contains Rough Justice. I also like She Saw Me Comin', Oh No, Not You Again, Laugh, I Nearly Die, and of course, Sweet Neocon, the song that skewers the Christian evangelical movement. At number 8, Goat's Head Soup, released in 1973. Now, I must admit, I've always disliked the cover of this album, and I don't care for the title either. But the music? Well, it was a number 1 album for the Rolling Stones. It was recorded in Jamaica, one of the few countries that Keith Richards says he was allowed to enter into. Songs include the monster hit Angie, Dancing with Mr. D, Do 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 Do, Heartbreaker, and the controversial song Star Star, which was banned by the BBC because the original title was Star Fucker. The record label made them change that. At number 7, another controversy. Hey, it's the Rolling Stones. My number 7 pick is Some Girls. And the controversy? It's the cover. The original cover features pictures of Lucille Ball, Farrah Fawcett, Raquel Welch, and Marilyn Monroe, all of which threatened to sue. The cover was changed, but the music itself was controversial. Miss You was labeled as a racial insult that degrades blacks and women. Jagger said people were just missing the joke. And I'm sure you can imagine he said it in a very typical Jagger fashion. Other songs are the great Just My Imagination, Running Away With Me, Before They Make Me Run, Beast of Burden, and Shattered, which to my ears is a very non-typical Rolling Stone song. At number 6, I pick Between the Buttons. Now, I always wondered what really was between the buttons. This album is a showcase for Brian Jones' musicianship. He plays organ, marimba, and vibraphone. Great songs are the hits Let's Spend the Night Together and Ruby Tuesday. But I also like Complicated and Something Happened to Me Yesterday. Okay, we're halfway through. Have I already ignored your favorite Stones album? All right, let's see what my top 5 picks are. At number 5 has to be Aftermath. It was released in 1966, and it's the first Rolling Stones album that contains only original songs by Jagger Richards, no blues covers. Once again, there was a controversy over the album cover. Now you look at Aftermath and you go, wait, that's pretty bland. What could the problem be? Well, the problem was this was to be the original album cover. And the title of the album was going to be Can You Walk on Water? Well, the record company went nuts and said, no, you can't do that. So the aftermath of that was Aftermath. Again, Brian Jones extends their musical palette, adding sitar and dulcimer to the mix. As was the practice at the time, the US and UK versions of this album are different. The UK version is over 52 minutes long, making it the longest album released at that point. Great songs are Painted Black, Stupid Girl, Lady Jane, supposedly about Henry VIII and Jane Seymour, Under My Thumb, and I Am Waiting. At number 4, Beggar's Banquet, released in 1968. Now this is the last album that Brian Jones will play on. His drug use was really spinning out of control. But in spite of all that, he is a major contributor to the sound of this album. He plays multiple instruments. He plays the sitar on Street Fighting Man, slide guitar on No Expectations, harmonica, acoustic guitar, and mellotron. So Brian is all over this album. But, of course, there's another controversy. This is not the original cover. This is the original cover. It was a graffiti-strewn toilet. The record company was not going to let that fly. So it was quickly replaced with this bland white cover that was supposed to look like an invitation that you were supposed to RSVP to. Besides the aforementioned Street Fighting Man and No Expectations, other standouts are Sympathy for the Devil, Parachute Woman, Stray Cat Blues, and Factory Girl. For number 3, we fast forward 4 years to 1972 for the sprawling double album Exile on Main Street. The album was recorded in the south of France, as the Rolling Stones had all left England as tax exiles. But Keith's drug use was really out of hand, so the recording was very chaotic. Keith would disappear for long periods of time. They recorded the album all through the night in the villa, and it went on and on. But some good songs did come out of it. Keith created the wonderful song Happy. Other great songs are Rocks Off, Tumbling Dice, Sweet Virginia, and All Down the Line. Picking my last top 2 Rolling Stone studio albums was difficult. They could almost be interchangeable. It was a tough choice. Number 2, Sticky Fingers. Finally, the Stones get to create and release an album cover that they like. Designed by Andy Warhol, it features a close-up of a man's crotch in black jeans with a working zipper, which when you unzip, you'll find white underwear. Jagger, of course, loved it, but many retailers objected to it because they said the placement of the zipper caused damage to the vinyl record underneath it. This is the first record to display what is now the famous Tongue and Lips logo. Standout songs, all of them. I Like Brown Sugar, Wild Horses, Can't You Hear Me Knockin', Bitch, Sister Morphine, and Dead Flowers. So here we are, the moment of truth. We get down to my number 1 album. Now you remember I said at the beginning I was only going to review the Rolling Stones studio albums. Because if you recall from my Desert Island episode a long time ago, my favorite Rolling Stones album is a live one, which is Get Your Ya-Ya's Out. But we've already talked about that. And here, I'm narrowing it just to studio albums. So what's left? What's my number 1 Rolling Stones album? Let It Bleed. This is one of those albums that I talk about in another episode, which I've labeled Welcome to the Breakfast Show, which happens to be my most popular episode on this channel. Brian Jones's problems had become so severe he was fired from the band before recording this record. A month later, Brian drowned under mysterious circumstances in the pool at his home. The Stones hired Mick Taylor to replace Brian Jones, but Mick only plays on 2 songs on this record. Now, you can say what you want about the Rolling Stones, but when these boys decide that they're going to rock, they buckle down and they make some incredible music. Any album that starts with a strong song like Gimme Shelter can't miss. That song still gives me goosebumps. Merry Clayton sings with Mick Jagger. Now, the story is she was at home in bed when she got the call to come into the session to sing. She wasn't going to do it. Her husband convinced her that she should. So she went, and she says she doesn't really understand what the lyrics are about. She sings them and then goes back home to bed. Now, Merry Clayton has become part of rock and roll history, and she sings that incredible track while pregnant. All great songs are on this album. Love in Vain, Let It Bleed, Midnight Rambler, You Got the Silver, which is the first time that Keith gets to sing lead, and the album closes with the iconic You Can't Always Get What You Want, with the London Bach Choir providing vocal support. Okay, so let's recap. Here's the countdown. So those are my top 10 Rolling Stones albums, ranked in order, and I'm sure you don't agree. Leave me comments. I'd love to start a discussion about this. The Rolling Stones are just amazing. And even with Charlie Watts' passing, they continue to roll on. They are just a juggernaut that won't stop rocking. If you like this episode, hit the like button, and you can also leave me a comment down below, and I'll respond to you. If you subscribe, we'll let you know when future episodes come out.